We live in a world obsessed with visibility. Social media feeds are filled with curated wins, filtered success stories, and public declarations of every minor achievement. Somewhere along the way, we've been conditioned to believe that if we're not broadcasting our progress, it doesn't count. But that's a lie. In fact, some of the most powerful growth happens quietly, behind the scenes, in the shadows, when no one's watching. That's where real character is built. That's where leadership is born. And that's where success truly begins. Not with external recognition, but with internal focus. The people who create the most meaningful impact aren't the ones who shout the loudest. They're the ones who know why they're doing what they're doing. They aren't motivated by applause. They're driven by purpose. And that purpose becomes their compass, especially when no one else is watching, applauding, or even understanding what they're trying to build. These people don't need to announce their intentions because their why is loud enough to guide every decision they make. The journey of success, real, fulfilling success, starts not by looking around, but by looking within. It's easy to get distracted by what others are doing. It's tempting to compare your pace to someone else's highlight reel. But focus is not about tunnel vision. It's about intentional vision. It's about being so deeply rooted in your reason for doing something that external noise doesn't shake your internal compass. When you know your why, you stop trying to prove yourself to others. You stop running after recognition and start walking steadily toward a destination that matters to you. You begin to define success differently, not by how many people are watching, but by how aligned you feel with what you're building. And here's something counterintuitive. When you stop focusing on being seen, you actually start becoming more visible. Not in the artificial shout for attention way, but in the organic, magnetic way. People are drawn to clarity. They're inspired by consistency. They trust those who operate with integrity and alignment. You don't have to scream to be heard if what you're doing resonates on its own frequency. But getting to that place requires something many avoid. Silence. Stillness. Discomfort. We often avoid these things because we confuse them with weakness. But silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. When you remove the external distractions, the need to prove, to post, to impress, you're left with only one voice, your own. And for many, that's terrifying. Because that voice asks the hard questions. Why are you really doing this? Who are you trying to impress? Are you building something that matters to you or something that just looks good on paper? The truth is, most people don't slow down long enough to listen. They're too busy running, climbing, broadcasting. But those who pause, those who sit in the stillness and reflect, those are the ones who find the truth. And from that truth, they find direction. That direction becomes focus, and that focus becomes fuel. You don't need to focus on being loud. Focus on being clear. Clear in your values, clear in your mission, clear in your boundaries. Because when your actions align with your beliefs, you build something stronger than applause. You build trust. And that trust starts with yourself. You start to trust your own process, even when others don't understand it. You trust your decisions, even when they're unpopular. You trust your path, even when it doesn't look like anyone else's. That's the beauty of internal focus. It frees you from the need for external validation. But none of this happens overnight. Focus is a daily practice. It's choosing to return to your values when it's easier to follow the crowd. It's choosing to work on your craft when no one is clapping. It's choosing to be honest with yourself about what matters and what doesn't. And yes, it's lonely sometimes. There's a cost to choosing internal alignment over external attention, but there's also a reward, a deeper kind of success, the kind of success that doesn't just impress others, but fulfills you. Because eventually the results speak. The work you've done in silence becomes visible, not because you shouted it into existence, but because consistency always becomes undeniable. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. Let your actions do that. Let your consistency do that. Let your integrity do that. And let your results do that. The most powerful message you can ever send is one you don't have to say yourself. That's what it means to let your success talk. So when you feel tempted to chase recognition, pause. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself what you're really trying to prove, and then shift that energy inward. Pour it into the habits that matter, into the values you believe in, into the mission you quietly carry forward. Success isn't a performance, it's a reflection of values, of purpose, of daily choices. And those who focus on building rather than boasting are the ones who change the world, not because they demanded attention, but because they earned respect. Let others talk. Let others watch. You stay focused, stay grounded, stay true. Build something so real, so valuable, so aligned that it doesn't need words. Let the work speak. Let the mission speak. Let the success speak. Because when you focus on yourself, you give your success the space to echo. And the echo of real, meaningful success always speaks louder than self-promotion ever could. We're taught from an early age that we must speak up to be seen, that if we don't make noise, no one will notice. But that belief overlooks something critical, the value of quiet strength. In a culture where shouting gets attention and declarations are mistaken for achievement, silence is wrongly assumed to be weakness. But silence, when rooted in purpose, is a sign of discipline. It's not about withholding. It's about choosing action over announcement. You see, we live in a time when many people mistake visibility for progress. They confuse talking about a goal with actually achieving it. We tell others what we're going to do, how big our plans are, how soon we'll make them happen, and in doing so, we sometimes give ourselves the illusion that we've already done the work. But saying the words isn't the same as doing the work. Promising something isn't the same as delivering it. And those who truly lead, those who truly create lasting success, understand this deeply. They don't rush to broadcast what they're building. They don't need to. They trust the process enough to keep their head down and focus, because they know that results will always outlast the noise. Talking might create a spark, but it's consistent execution that builds a fire. Real confidence is quiet. It's the kind of confidence that doesn't seek approval or applause. It doesn't need an audience. It just needs a reason. When you have a reason strong enough, a mission, a vision, a deep personal why, you no longer feel the need to constantly explain yourself. You become grounded in what you're doing, even if others don't see it yet. And that's where the shift happens. When you start focusing on your discipline instead of your declarations, your results start to speak louder than any words you could ever use. They tell a story of commitment, of resilience, of long nights and early mornings, of effort no one witnessed but everyone benefits from. People often confuse being loud with being strong. But strength isn't always loud. Think of a tree. It doesn't grow by shouting into the sky. It grows by sinking its roots deep into the ground. Quietly, steadily, patiently. And in time, it becomes something unshakable. Your life, your work, your mission, they need that same kind of quiet strength. The hardest part is resisting the urge to prove yourself. We all want to be recognized. We all want someone to say, I see you. But when you understand that the most meaningful validation comes not from being seen, but from being effective, you stop needing to announce every step. You start trusting that your time will come, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. There's a unique kind of power in doing the work when no one is watching, in choosing to be excellent not because someone expects it, but because that's who you are. The people who become truly great at what they do don't get there by constantly promoting their progress. They get there by making their progress inevitable. And that's what silence allows. It gives you the space to think clearly, to refine your craft, to fail in private, to grow without judgment. It gives you freedom, not from pressure, but from performance. When you're not trying to impress others, you're finally able to focus on what really matters, making something that lasts. That doesn't mean you never share your vision. It doesn't mean you hide forever. It doesn't mean that you can't be. It means you prioritize doing the work before talking about the work. It means you don't let the hunger for attention distract you from the discipline that's required to build something meaningful. And when the time is right, when the product is complete, the project is launched, the vision is realized, people will take notice, not because you ask them to, but because success has a way of speaking for itself. It shows up in the quality of your work, the consistency of your results, the way people feel when they experience what you've built. At that point, the silence ends not because you finally speak, but because your results speak for you. And that's the most powerful voice you can have. A voice that echoes through your actions. A voice that can't be faked or fast-tracked. A voice that says, I didn't just talk about it, I built it. I didn't just promise, I delivered. I didn't just say I would, I did. That's what we should strive for. Not noise, but impact. Not declarations, but demonstrations. Because the world doesn't need more talkers. It needs more builders. More quiet professionals. More focused creators. People who understand that the most meaningful contribution they can make is not in the volume of their voice, but in the value of their actions. So when you feel that urge to speak, to post, to announce, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this because it's ready or because I want reassurance? There's nothing wrong with wanting to be seen, but there's something powerful about choosing to wait until the work is ready to be seen on its own terms. The discipline of silence is not about hiding. It's about preparing. It's about understanding that success is not a performance. It's a process. And the more you commit to that process without distraction, the more powerful your outcome will be. Let your competitors talk. Let them announce their every move. You stay focused, stay steady, stay quiet. And when your moment comes, when your work is undeniable and your mission is in motion, then and only then, let it speak, let it roar, let it echo louder than words ever could, because that's the strength of silence. And that's the power of letting your results create the noise. We all want to grow. We want to become better, stronger, wiser versions of ourselves. And yet somewhere along the way, our definition of growth got tangled up in performance. We started treating personal development like a public sport, something to be ranked, judged, and broadcast. But real growth doesn't happen on a stage. It happens in the quiet corners of your life where no one else is looking. It happens when you stop performing for the world and start showing up for yourself. Growth is not a competition, and yet we often treat it like one. We scroll through timelines filled with highlight reels and achievements, and without even realizing it, we start comparing. We look at someone else's success and question our own. We measure our progress against someone else's timeline, forgetting that they're running a race we were never meant to be in. But comparison is a thief. It robs us of joy, of focus, of clarity, and most of all, it robs us of presence. The truth is, the only person you should ever compete with is who you were yesterday. That's it. That's the measure. Not someone else's income, not their accolades, not the number of followers they have. You don't know their story. You don't know what they sacrificed or what they're hiding. All you see is the surface. But your journey, your real meaningful journey, happens below the surface, in the struggle, in the growth, in the discomfort, in the courage it takes to keep going when no one is clapping. We grow when we choose to stay in the process, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. We grow when we stop pretending we have it all together and start being honest with ourselves. That honesty is the foundation of real transformation. Because when we stop lying to ourselves about who we're trying to impress, we start focusing on who we're trying to become. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more honest ones. More people who are willing to say, I'm not there yet, but I'm showing up anyway. That's courage. That's growth. That's leadership. And it's rarely glamorous. Often it's messy. It's filled with doubts, setbacks, and quiet mornings where you wonder if it's all worth it. But every time you choose to keep going, every time you show up again and again and again, you build something far more powerful than an image. You build character. And character is something no one can give you. It's something you earn through repetition, through showing up for the hard work, especially when the results are invisible, especially when the progress feels slow, especially when it seems like everyone else is winning faster than you. But here's what most people forget. Growth is not always visible. It's not always something others can see or measure. Sometimes growth looks like staying silent when you want to lash out. Sometimes it looks like walking away when your pride wants to fight. Sometimes it looks like choosing rest over burnout, honesty over approval, and peace over perfection. And none of those things make for a great Instagram post, but they are the signs of someone becoming more whole. Growth doesn't ask for applause. It asks for consistency. It asks for humility. It asks you to be more committed to your purpose than your pride. That's why this journey is personal, because no one else can walk it for you. No one else knows what you're carrying. No one else hears the voice in your head when you're deciding whether to give up or go one more round. When you stop seeing growth as a public event, something shifts inside of you. You stop rushing. You stop proving. You start paying attention. You begin to notice the small wins, the moments of clarity, the unexpected patience, the strength to forgive. You stop needing to arrive and start learning how to be, how to live fully in the present, knowing that progress is being made even if it's not being seen. And eventually something beautiful happens. You stop comparing entirely, not because the noise disappears, but because your focus gets stronger. You become so tuned into your own growth that someone else's path no longer distracts you. You start to realize that their success doesn't diminish yours, that someone else's progress isn't your problem, that you're not behind, you're just on your own journey. That's where power comes from. Not from pretending to have the answers, but from being willing to ask better questions. Not from appearing successful, but from becoming deeply aligned. Because when your actions are rooted in your values, and your values are rooted in your purpose, comparison becomes irrelevant. You start to realize that it's not about going faster, it's about going deeper. Deeper into your work, deeper into your growth, deeper into your truth. And the deeper you go, the more grounded you become. The more grounded you become, the less shaken you are by other people's timelines. This kind of growth doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't trend. It doesn't always come with praise. But it comes with peace. It comes with clarity. It comes with the quiet knowing that you are becoming exactly who you were meant to be, not because someone else said so, but because you feel it, because you chose it. So stop chasing validation, stop chasing the illusion of progress. Get quiet enough to hear your own voice, get honest enough to admit where you are, and then get courageous enough to keep going, even if no one's watching, especially if no one's watching. Because in the end, your journey